Joey, Mount Rainier's gonna blow up. Hey, wait a second. Who told you that?
There it is. This is bad news.
My God. I didn't think it happened.
I'll watch the video later. They dry mopping this.
Welcome back to Caribbean Weather Dude YouTube channel. Joey only here in Wells, BC, 3,953 feet above sea level in my chair of infinite knowledge, looking at all the weather and wilderness stories in the Northwest and beyond. Yes, there is some activity at Mount Rainier to talk about. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, support the guy. I'm back here again. Meteorologist Mark has written a nice blog post today detailing what's been going on at Mount Rainier. It's a couple of hours old. We'll try to give you all the updates we can to sort of settle your mind at ease and let you know that, hey, this isn't necessarily such a big deal. Volcanoes sometimes have movement in them. Doesn't necessarily mean the magma chamber near the surface is primed to blow. Okay, and these are very, very small earthquakes that are going on. Like, they're so small that on the USGS map, they're not showing up. We're talking most of them are under magnitude 1. I think 1.6 is one of the strongest. Well, let's look at Mark's blog post and see what he's saying, because he's not just a meteorologist, he's also a geologist. That's one thing we get along about it. We both have similar interests and background. Every week on our show on the podcast, a meteorological report. That's Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Meteorologist Mark is almost always on the show with us. He's our resident meteorologist, our little expert here, and we love him very much. So he's got this blog post today I'm going to take you through here. A nice picture of Mount Rainier. Okay, an earthquake swarm began under Mount Rainier early in the morning of July 8th. As of 10:15 in the morning, on July 8th, 81 earthquakes have been observed under the volcano as part of this sequence. The largest there so far was magnitude 1.6 at the time of the article being written. Earthquake swarms are common at active volcanoes. Mount St. Helens has small earthquakes almost every day, and Mount Hood has had a few swarms over the past couple years. An earthquake swarm does not mean that an eruption is imminent. Under an active volcano, magma is moving around slowly, and this shifts around rocks to cause earthquakes. In addition, geothermally heated water can alter rocks in the volcano. Things are moving around, sometimes underground. Most earthquakes in these swarms are quite weak and aren't likely to be felt by humans at all. You wouldn't even know they were there without sensitive equipment monitoring these volcanoes. Most earthquakes in these swarms are weak. They're not felt by humans. A few larger earthquakes could be felt by humans, but only if you're within a few miles of the epicenter. Monthly earthquakes within 15 kilometers of Mount Rainier occur since 2000. In this map here, this little diagram, the graph above, it gives you a 30-day rolling total of earthquakes within 15 kilometers of Mount Rainier. And so it shows you the frequency. And as you can see on here, there's a spike going on right now. And we had a long period where there's not been a lot of activity since 2009. Now we have a bit of a spike happening. So far, this is the most active earthquake swarm under Rainier since 2009. During that event, 157 earthquakes were located near the volcano. The most active one in the last few decades was in 2006, when 187 earthquakes were located in a 30-day period. It's likely that the number of earthquakes in this swarm will increase, and this swarm could potentially last for a couple of weeks longer. In fact, there have been 3 or 4 additional earthquakes since Mark downloaded the data to generate the chart above. It's impossible to predict when specific earthquakes will occur or how strong they will be. It's impossible to predict how long this earthquake swarm will last. The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network has about 24 seismograph stations deployed in and around Mount Rainier National Park to monitor conditions there. The Cascade Volcano Observatory issued an update for Mount Rainier on Tuesday morning. In addition to the 80 earthquakes listed on the USGS website, hundreds of smaller earthquakes are being detected but are too weak to precisely locate. There are several of these a minute at times. Other sensors deployed at Mount Rainier do not show any ground deformation or anomalous infrasound signals. There are an average of 9 locatable earthquakes a month within 1 to 2 swarms of these per year. The Volcano Observatory notes that past swarms have been attributed to the circulation of fluids interacting with pre-existing faults. Mount Rainier is listed right now at normal alert level with the aviation color code of green, meaning there is no concern for an imminent eruption at the volcano. Volcanologists and seismologists continue to monitor it and other Cascade volcanoes for signs of unrest and will issue updates if need and when needed. In the meantime, weekly updates can be found. Thank you very much, Mark. www.ingleswx.com. And here's directly what the U.S. Geological Survey is saying as of this morning. The U.S. Geological Survey, Cascades Volcano Observatory, and Pacific Northwest Seismic Network detected a swarm of earthquakes at Mount Rainier starting at 1:29 Pacific Standard Time. So far, hundreds of earthquakes have been detected, with event rates up to several per minute, ranging of depths of 1.2 to 3.7 miles below the surface, 2 to 6 kilometers. The largest earthquake located thus far is a magnitude 1.7 now. Currently, there's no indication that this level of earthquake activity is a cause for concern. The alert level remains at green. Beginning around 1:29 on July 8th, a swarm of small volcanoes near the summit of Mount Rainier were perceived. The volcano Pacific Northwest Seismic Network is locating earthquakes, with the largest so far being 1.7, ranging from the depths of 1.2 miles. This is all stuff we just saw. There are hundreds of small earthquakes occurring at rates of up to several per minute. No earthquakes have been felt at the surface. Instruments do not show detectable ground deformation. No anomalous signals have been on the infrasound monitoring stations. Mount Rainier does not have a dedicated continuous volcanic gas sampling capability. Typically, earthquakes at this volcano are located at a rate of 9 earthquakes per month. Swarms occur 1 to 2 times per year, but are usually much smaller in terms of events. The last large swarm was in 2009, had a maximum magnitude of 2.3, and it lasted 3 days, the swarm did. The 2009 swarm had 1,000 earthquakes, and there was no eruption, friends. Okay, so the PNSN officially located 120 earthquakes during that time. Past swarms have been attributed to circulation of fluids, like we were saying. So Mount Rainier is monitored by a dense network of seismometers, infrared sensors, GPS stations, and webcams. The U.S. Geological Survey, Cascades Volcano Observatory, and Pacific Northwest Seismic Network will continue to monitor earthquake activity. Rainier is an active, ice-clad stratovolcano geographically located within Mount Rainier National Park. It's located 73 kilometers southeast of Tacoma, Washington, 97 kilometers south-southeast of Seattle in Washington State, as I said. It's the tallest peak in the Cascade Range and is covered by the greatest concentration of glaciers in the contiguous United States. The most hazardous phenomenon for Mount Rainier are volcanic mud flows called lahars, many of which reach as far as the now densely inhabited Puget Sound lowland. Other hazards include ashfall, pyroclastic flows, and short lava flows. However, these are will probably stay in the limits of the national park, and these are not hazards we are expecting right now, despite the fact there's an earthquake swarm. The danger level is still at green. Mount Rainier is considered a very high-threat volcano, according to the USGS National Volcanic Warning System, but it's on green still, right? Based on many factors that include the types of hazards and distance to people, property, and infrastructure. So it's very concerning to see any activity there. We want to pay close attention to it, but we're not concerned right now that an eruption is imminent. Normal background levels of activity at Mount Rainier sometimes include steam and gas emissions and low levels of seismicity. So none of this is that unusual. Holocene volcanic activity in the last 15,000 years there. Nearly all of Rainier's far-traveled lahars formed during times of eruptions. One contains a large volume of altered rock that avalanched from Sunset Amphitheater on Mount Rainier's upper west flank 500 years ago with no known triggering eruption. A lahar with no known trigger is locally known as a no-notice lahar. Future eruptions are likely to produce lahars that could descend river valleys on either side of the volcano. So the no-notice lahar is also possible from the upper west flank of the volcano and could feed into the Puyallup and Nisqually river systems. No physical evidence exists, though, to confirm a reported but distributed eruption in 1894 may have happened. We don't know much about eruptions in 18th and 19th centuries. The most recent eruptions with strong geological evidence was about 1,000 years ago. That's a long time ago. So I hope that puts your mind at ease. There's so little activity right now. I mean, it's frequent, but it's little. It's very, very little. So don't panic, friends. I don't think we have any immediate threat of volcano eruption. And believe me, if there was, the volcano specialist would be screaming about it. It would be front page news everywhere. So yeah, the activity's happening. It makes for great clickbait. I'm glad you came and clicked on this today. Hit like, share, subscribe if you wouldn't mind. Keep supporting the guy. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks, meteorologist Mark, for the article.